Hi guys, it's Nicole, and today I'm sharing my fourth and final project with the February Flavors of the Month kit from the Scraproom. This one is the Simple Stories Happy Hearts kit, and this was probably my favorite of all four kits this month. Not surprising, I really like Simple Stories Valentine's Day lines, and so I was excited to see that that was kind of the one that was picked for the kits this month. So as always, this is me going through the kit the first time, kind of getting a good look at everything and seeing what stands out to me, what am I gravitating towards, what kind of ideas are popping up into my mind. I absolutely loved this ledger paper, but I found this collection to be kind of interesting because I would say half of it kind of has a vintage floral feel to it. And then the other half is more like bright color and whimsical. So it was kind of interesting to see that. I am not going to use that ledger paper today. I thought about kind of cutting away the floral pieces and stuff like that, but knowing that I was going to do more of a horizontal thing, I was like, no, I'll save this for another project. This is another thing that I absolutely love when Rochelle picks this for the kits is the Simple Stories page pieces, and you get the whole package. I really like these page pieces that they've been doing because typically you get almost always like a large title piece, a couple what I would consider to be large die cuts, and then it kind of steps down from there. Typically you'll get a good sampling of something tiny. In this case, it's these hearts. And then you get like maybe a phrase or maybe one little label. That's all I kind of want. So I like the fact that even if you used every single piece that was in here, it's not like a ton of product. These are the two pattern papers that come in the pattern paper add-on. And here you can see what I was talking about. One side of the paper kind of feels different than the other side of the paper. So I think that that was kind of cool how they designed the line, because if you go with a more vintage type feel, I think you're going to gravitate towards some of the back sides. And then in the embellishment add-on, you got the 12 by 12 sticker sheet. I chose not to use this today. There was some pieces in here that I really liked, but I kind of at this point knew that I was going to do a single page layout, but I was going to have a lot of photos. And so I wasn't sure how much room I was going to have. And I kind of felt like the page pieces die cut pack was going to be enough. And it ended up being perfect. So I dropped the photos from Valentine's Day of 2021 into Photoshop. This is kind of how I determine how many photos do I have, which ones do I actually want to print, how many does that leave me with, and then I kind of go from there as far as sizing and a layout design. In this case, I took two photos and cropped them to be, I think these are 3 inches high, 4 inches wide, and then all of the portrait ones are 2x3s. So basically they're all going to be 3 inches tall, and I'm going to be able to fit 7 on a layout. And then here I was kind of trying to figure out, okay, in this type of layout, I like to do strips of pattern paper. So I knew my photos are 3 inches tall, and I knew, okay, I think I'm going to cut my papers to basically just be 4-inch strips. And I went with the like love text pattern paper and the pink and black like wonky polka dot pattern, which was on the back side. So ultimately I only ended up using this one sheet for most of my paper, which is, I kind of like that because then that leaves me a lot more paper to do additional layouts with, and then pair those with like the 12 by 12 sticker sheet. I did trim off a little bit of the width because I like seeing like a white frame from the cardstock. That's just a personal preference for me. So I knew that I kind of wanted to have half my photos on the top, half my photos on the bottom, and then I like using the third section to house my title, my journaling, and then a lot of times like an interesting creative aspect. From there, I took the 3x4 cut aparts, and I'm not actually looking at what's on the cut apart. I'm looking at the color of like the background, because I knew I wanted to have like some layers kind of tucked here and there. And so I took one that was like the darker pink from the line, and then one that was like a navy color. And then from there, I just kind of went through the die cuts and was trying to figure out which ones did I want to use and that type of thing. And I actually kind of had a goof. I really liked where I had put that navy and white label, like tucked under the title. I ended up putting it somewhere else because I forgot. Okay, so with the middle being white, I wanted to do something interesting, and I've had in the back of my mind a bunch of different ideas for doing like white on white textured, interesting type panel things. So I pulled out these, I think they're just like slimline border dies maybe. I don't have them in front of me. They're from scrapbook.com. They're like house brand. They're pretty much the exact size of my like cutting base. So pretty much every time I ran it through, it didn't cut completely on one end every time I did it. I didn't really care because of the application that I was using it. So I just took my scissors and trimmed off what didn't die cut. These are much longer than what I need them to be, so it was fine. I am a mess, and I don't do well when it comes to math on my layouts. So I am going to show you just the easy method of how I did this. I taped my layout to my mat so that it didn't move, and then I took a piece of like Post-it tape and went corner to corner. This is basically going to give me that like perfect slant. And then I'm gluing a strip down, and I just trimmed it with my scissors because I don't really want it to go up into the pattern paper. My plan was to go ahead and cover those like raw edges with a border piece anyway. So I just kind of trimmed it with my scissors. It's a mess, but I just need it glued down and roughly in that area. And to make it easier, I actually just kept them the width of that piece of tape. And again, I use the corner to corner method to get the first one down, and then I just butt the piece of tape up against the previous one and glue my strip down, pull up my tape, butt it up against the edge, repeat. And I just did this over and over again and went the whole width with them sort of slanted this direction. And then I don't remember, I think I did film. I think I kept my camera running because I knew if I was going to get questions, it was going to be on this part. And this was the point where I was trying to make a decision. I kind of wanted to do white on white stitching and parallel those same lines, but then I was like, no, I don't really know what I want to do. So I ended up rotating my paper, and I'm going to go the other direction, and it's going to end up being more of like a lattice. So I'm going to save the stitching idea or concept for another layout. I have a whole bunch of ideas for this like white on white textured thing. I really like it. I like the fact that you've got the two busy pattern papers and this sort of white open area in between, but the white open area in between stands out on its own just from how much dimension and interest you're getting from something like layering strips of pattern paper. Like super, super easy. And don't think that you need to have those border dies to do the same thing. You could easily just sit here and trim strips with your paper trimmer. I kind of suck at getting them to be pretty even without doing like that cardstock bumper thing that I've shown you before. This was more of those dies were new to me, and I kind of wanted to play around with them, and it was just a quick method for me to get a bunch of strips and kind of get going on this layout. From there, I cut 4 strips of more of that textured white cardstock that came in the kit, and I'm cutting scalloped borders, but I do want them to kind of line up and be the same, like a mirror image from top to bottom. So that was the only thing that I really needed to measure. Was I used the first one that I cut to measure where the one on top, like, I don't know how to explain this. A lot of times when I use this border punch, my scallops don't come out centered across that 12-inch piece. So I just used a pencil to make sure that the top one mirrored it and the scallops mirrored themselves. I explained that horribly. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. And I did do 2 of each because I wanted them to have more texture than like the lattice pieces. So I'm going to glue 2 of them together, and this is going to kind of create a border between the pattern papers and then the area where I'm going to have titling and journaling. And then from there, that's the basis for the actual layout. From there, I'm going to go through and kind of start working basically forward in the layers. I went and got this notebook punch, and I'm just punching the edges of those little 3x4 cut aparts and trimming off the pieces that I don't need. I only wanted like a little bit of pops of color and then the like notebook edge peeking out. So I'm going to do the pink one down here at the bottom, and I just layered that card die cut behind there. Normally I would cut something like that in half and try to find another way to use it. I decided not to. This one, I cut off the envelope from the heart. I cut the heart off the other heart, thinking I was going to use that. I don't think I ended up using it. I liked this one better that had like the cute little like face on it. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the cut apart that had the navy background. Same thing. Just going to run my border punch along the back of it. I'm going to tuck it behind the photo up here on the top right. And then I'm going to go ahead and start putting my photos down. And I did keep my photos kind of all lined up. Sometimes I'll do where like I'll tilt them and have them kind of wonky. In this case, I really wanted the photos themselves to be lined up and everything else tucked in kind of be askew and playful. So again, I tucked that label up at the top, forgetting that I wanted to put it behind the title, but it's fine. And whoever left me this comment, thank you. Somebody left me a comment and said that there's these clear plastic pieces on this trimmer that show you exactly where it's going to cut. And I'm thinking, what is she talking about? And I went to cut my journaling strips, and I looked really close at my cutter. There are clear plastic pieces that you can move, and you can see where the blade is going to cut. And it's like, you can see where the blade's going to cut with the little arrow thing. But this was like a double check method to make sure that the blade was going to go between like the layers that hang, or the letters that hang down, like a G and a Y. And you could make sure that you were cutting it where you wanted to cut. I wish I could remember the name of the YouTube account that left me that comment. If it was you, thank you so much, because that like really was like the finishing touch to being able to cut journaling strips with that new trimmer and just kind of have it make sense to me. I've gotten away with eyeballing it, but I feel like that was just like the final piece to like, okay, this is exactly where the blade is going to cut. I need to adjust my paper a tiny, tiny bit, and I can check both ends of where the blade is going to hit. I had no idea that those were even there. So again, thank you. If you have that trimmer and you didn't know that they were there, go check your trimmer right now. I did add a label for my stash just so that I could stamp the year. I know that this is Valentine's Day, so I don't feel the need to stamp the whole date. And I did pop up my journaling on foam strips and the love you lots phrase on a foam strip as well. So with that, that is the end of the projects for the Scraproom Flavors of the Month kit. I am going to be working on some other things for the rest of the month, and the big crop is also this month, so I'm hoping to do a crop vlog while I'm there. So with that, I'll catch you guys later.